Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nick Talk Survivor. My name is Nick, and this is the official face reveal of the channel. Today, I am joined with the man who got me into this show, my dad,
Woo
Greg.
woo! Hey Nick, how's it going?
Good, good. So, today we will be recapping episode 9 of season 47, and hopefully not talk everyone's ears off for too long. But I say we jump right into the recap. So we started with Andy doing damage control with Sam and Rachel. And my immediate thought to that was, this is not going to work. I thought, especially Sam was going to feel too burned by Andy. Andy flipping. I was like, Andy, you flipped. There's really no mending this. Um, and then, of course, we see Sam saying, it's time for revenge, on Andy. Um, I can't remember exactly what Rachel said, but I have written down that it's kind of seemed like Rachel was lying to Andy about like Sierra's motivations, which I thought was really smart. Um, I can't remember if she said like, "Oh, it's because Sierra, was throwing out your name" or something like that. That's why, I can't remember exactly, but I just wrote down that I thought when Andy went to Rachel, I thought that she played that very well. I don't know if you remember that
I just
action.
I just thought that the whole interaction with them was very interesting because in a minute here, that's when they did the flashbacks, which kind of recapped their whole relationship. Because you remember day one was when Andy was trying to get Rachel on his side and was trying to that whole nighttime scene where he was being super cringy and she's like, I don't want us to be seen as a duo. And now she's like, yeah, bring back my Andy because she's all alone. She needs somebody,
Yeah.
right? But I thought it was interesting, right, that Andy started off by apologizing to Rachel for kind of leaving her out in the dark or whatever. But she confirmed, which was really important. I think she confirmed that the reason why she played the shot in the dark was so that she could gauge everybody's reaction to whether or not she should then play the idol. So I thought that was, I mean, this is a big brain move on Rachel's part.
It
So I
is.
think this might have changed a lot of going forward. I think people might start getting super creative with this shot in the dark. We've already seen like people doing it to hide their
Either vote,
votes in
yeah.
the past. And so now the fact that she did that just to gauge because that it's just a throwaway, right? There's no chance hardly anyway. So but it's a great way to then see that she was now able to conserve her idol for later. So I thought that was big
Yeah.
brains.
There goes the
Something else that was
speculation. There goes the speculation of like she didn't want to vote out Sierra. I think
yeah,
Rachel genuinely did not know that Sierra
yeah,
was going.
yeah. I think they were totally out of the dark.
Mhm.
But something that I thought was interesting is because I feel like everybody had been giving credit to Andy as being the one who flipped this. He's the one that, oh, I'm going to go against them now. But they thanked him. Did you notice that? They thanked Andy for voting with them. And so that really made me feel like, oh, he wasn't the driver on this. They brought him on board as opposed to him saying, it's time for me to flip. I think he was approached, which I think is very interesting that the edit has been trying to show us that he's like the mastermind behind this. But how is he driving it if they're, oh, thank you so much for voting with us. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, we'll get into this a little later, but my thought with these unanimous votes is like, how do you really give credit to one person, especially
Mhm.
in a final three scenario? I can see a world where these people who are quote unquote driving these unanimous votes, maybe they say the name first. If they bring that up at final three, everyone on the jury is going to say, okay, I wrote that name down too.
Yeah,
I was having those same conversations all day. And we'll definitely get into that later because that's important for where I think Genevieve goes.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
but yeah, right after that, yeah, and then showing the Andy flashbacks and all of that, I was like, oh my goodness, they are hyping Andy up at the beginning of the episode. This means Andy is going, which that was just me trying to read the edit a little too hard. I think, people are comparing his game to Emily Flippin from 46, right? Yeah, yeah. 45, 45.
45,
from
45.
45, and yeah, 45, saying he's getting like the growth edit. And I've been saying all season we're getting these hints that no one respects him. Again, your thing saying, thank you, Andy, for voting with us. That's more just like, okay, Andy is, you know, the little brother. He's just, we're handing him the controller, but his controller isn't on. He thinks
Yeah.
he's playing the game, but it's really his older brother is the one with the remote that's working. I
Yeah.
think they're giving him a false sense of security, is really the best way I could put it.
Definitely, he definitely seems to me like the zero vote finalist
Hmm.
for sure. For sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Okay. The next thing we go on to the paired up challenge. And I thought this, when they panned to all of them in a line, I was like, oh my gosh, they finally look so skinny. I thought they were
Yeah.
really starting to look really raggedy and skinny. That was my initial thought. What did you think about the pairs and how those shook up? Because it seemed that they chose themselves.
Yeah, they chose the pairs themselves. Now, they showed us like immediately a few people coming together, but when you listen to, I don't know if you were able to listen to the exit interviews, it definitely made it sound like they didn't show us all of the choices that were happening and who actually paired up first and things like that. But in general, I actually kind of liked the pairs. I thought it was interesting, right, that we ended up with um, two sets of all guys, right? And two sets of all girls, as opposed to trying to make those more even. But it definitely seemed like rather than trying to even out the pairs, they were more trying to even out who they would be going up against. Like everybody seemed
Hmm.
to have the end
A
game in
matchup.
mind, right? The matchup, like,
Like
okay,
the
this will
end,
be my
you mean
best
the
match.
end stage of the
The end
challenge?
stage of this
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah.
Yes, yes, sorry, the end stage of this challenge. But like if you look at it, Sam and Andy, they were original tribe, Gata, right? You've got Kyle and Gabe, they were original talk
Tuku, Tuku.
Tuku, right? Um, uh, Teeny and Soul were original Lavo, right?
Mhm.
And so we did have like this the Sue and Genevieve coming together. That was different, and Caroline and Rachel, right? That was the only kind of the only differences. But I thought everything was just very interesting. How you have same genders, you have same original tribes,
And
kind of weird.
I thought largely allies paired up,
Exactly.
which I,
Yes.
I feel like in previous seasons they kind of, go against. I maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like they usually pick someone, that they would love to take out of a challenge. And I mean, we know that's what was going on here. Of course, Sam this whole time is like, this is my chance to get Andy out. And then, of course, we see, they look so promising. They get ahead. We're like, oh my goodness, Sam is going to get to the end with this guy. He's going to get to beat him, whatever. And then they're digging up the bag, and the bag breaks. And Jeff is like, that's on you guys.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, maybe they could have dug up the hole a little more to make the bag more exposed. But was this not a weird production error? Were they just
So
pulling on the bag too early? Is that what it was?
yeah, that's my. At first, I thought the exact same thing. Like, why did can you guarantee the fact that this was a quality bag? But if you look closer, so what was happening is they were just pulling. At
Mhm.
rather
Okay.
like everybody else is digging, they were still just trying to pull. Even when the bag broke, they were still just trying to like when they get like the corner of the piece, they were still kind of just pulling at it as opposed to um trying to actually dig. And so I think that's why it broke was because they had not uncovered enough dirt. And so I
Yeah.
think that's why Jeff can say justify the fact that it's not a production error. It's not a broken challenge. It
Okay.
was their fault. Um, so yeah, that was weird, but it makes sense after a bit.
Yeah, I was
So
confused
I
why
don't
then
know.
then it took them so long to get it out, but I guess the way you explain it, they weren't digging.
They
Okay.
weren't digging.
How scared did you get when Jeff said four people will be losing their vote?
I I I was mad.
Hmm.
I was mad, and I don't want to be such a downer on new world production of Survivor, but here's the thing. from the very beginning, Survivor was set up to be a cosmos of people, right? And it was all about how will this group of people live together and then have to vote out people and then have to vote for somebody, get the vote from somebody that you voted out. And so to me, I have so many issues with the constant vote losing because I
Yeah,
think it's taking away from what Survivor is supposed to be.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
supposed to be about the dealing with the humans. And so I feel like they're getting too caught up in the monster of the game now that, oh, everything's so dangerous, you're gonna lose your vote. Oh man.
they've been
Now the thing is,
they've
was
been
it
one.
really four people? That was just hyperbole, right? It was never gonna be four people. It was always only gonna be one. But still.
Yeah, I mean, my issue with it is that they've been one tribe for what, four votes now. Technically only a merged tribe for three of those. Um, but still, why are we a merged, quote unquote, merged tribe and we haven't had a normal vote yet? I mean, they do this every season of the new era. We shouldn't be surprised, but I'm just waiting because we love when the game starts. We love when production,
Yes. Yes.
hopefully this week we see production step away and we can get these, social strategic votes that I've been talking about all season. We love when it's just straight strategic and social. Um, my issue with the four votes is I thought they were going to do something similar to 45 again, and where everyone who lost their vote does an individual challenge, and then they either win or lose it back. And that's where we saw Austin tell people that he still lost his vote when he'd actually won it back. I got really scared in that we were going to have four votes potentially up in the air because
Oh,
the
like
issue,
nobody would know.
yeah,
Okay.
because the issue with that is I don't know how many people lost their vote that time. Was it only two? Was it three, four? I cannot remember. But it's just the variation of having potentially four votes that you don't know if they genuinely have their vote or not. I think when you're out there on the island and you're trying to put a vote together, that gets very difficult. And I think had that happened, again, conservative play is what that brings.
I that makes a lot of
That's where you
sense
get
to
a
me
pylon
too.
vote.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
I got so scared because I was like, are they not going to tell people or be able to tell people that
I mean, I suppose
they got
there's
the
a
vote?
world out there where they could have, if the four of them could have agreed, we're not going to say, we're not going to let anybody know. But I don't think that would have ever happened, especially with Caroline being, I lost my vote.
Yeah,
Hey, it's me. I mean, like the moment she hits the beach, I lost my vote. The moment the thing falls over, I lost my vote.
it's okay.
So I
Okay.
don't think, yeah, it just is what it is. So I don't think they were ever gonna. But what did you think back to the challenge? What did you think about Genevieve and Sue in this challenge up until the balance beam? What did you think about the fact that they were still in it over Sam and Andy?
The 45-year-old, you mean?
Yeah, 45-year-old Sue. She looks great for a
She
45-year-old,
does
said
look,
Saul.
yeah, she looks so great for a 45-year-old.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah, I mean, Sue is a competitor. I think that's one thing driving up her threat level, actually, is that she is actually performing in these challenges, which I'm not surprised. She looks like a very strong woman.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that she's doing well. Um, I thought Sam and Andy, they weren't going to be a team. They weren't, no. Sam was in it for himself. Uh, there, yeah, there was no way that they were
Mhm.
going to do well. And then Gabe. Oh, yeah. What did you think about the Gabe immunity win over Kyle?
So so immediately I thought, okay, this is it. That it's curtains for Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's
You
gone.
know,
I
that
thought
was
the same thing.
yeah. Because of course earlier they had kind of teased us that Sam was going to gang up with Lavo against Gabe and that Gabe was going to be out, which of course meant Gabe was going to win the immunity, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so I thought for sure that meant that Kyle was out. I thought, oh, this is going to be an easy, but I was kind of surprised at how much time was left in the episode still, since this was
I noticed that
the only
too.
time. And I
Yeah.
realized, okay, wait, we've still got to go on a journey and things like that. But since we were not having a separate reward and immunity challenge, I was super surprised at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
For
and I
Gabe,
like,
I think this was actually a good win for him because I do think he could have been in danger this vote. I think there's a
Mhm.
world where he was the unanimous decision if he loses. Not that I think it'll be the same going forward, but with just the craziness of this episode, I was saying this whole time, this would be the one episode or the one day I would have wanted to win immunity because of
Yeah,
how crazy this tribal ended up being. It would have felt so nice to have immunity. Um,
yeah.
for someone like Gabe and for guys like Gabe and Sam, especially Sam, um, if I was out there, I would wait further in the merge to start winning immunities actually. And I know that it's really easy to get caught up in the competition, but for someone like Gabe, I think it's a better idea to hide your challenge ability until later on. And now, of course, I think Kyle, we can talk about this with predictions. Maybe I'm going on a tangent too much, but I think Kyle at this point really does need to win out or have some trick up his sleeve.
Yep.
Um, because these big strong guys, if they're winning immunities early on, you have to know that votes are going to come your way the second you lose. I know it.
Well,
One thing I did consider is it's going to be puzzles later on. Don't you think? Like it's going to start being puzzles, and so it's like, okay, this is where probably, historically the women are probably going to step up and start doing better in the challenges, with the puzzles versus just brute strength and endurance based ones. But I don't know. I would
well,
throw
think about Genevieve on that. Genevieve and Sue on the puzzle stairs, right? That's what I mean. Like they were
Oh yeah.
killing it, So I think we've definitely seen that. Yes, when it does come to puzzles, that's when Genevieve could really start killing it, right? Because it would appear that those guys, none of them are very good at puzzles. So you're definitely right there. What did you think though about when Jeff at the start of the final part of the challenge, when Jeff said, "Oh, and Kyle's won all three immunities so far," because you remember he actually was third
Yeah,
that one time.
the thing is he got the necklace, so he gets the count for it. Um, which Kyle, I think he was already because of the two wins in a row was going to be pegged as a challenge threat
Don't
or
you think this
a
puts
first and
more of
third,
a
whatever.
target on him?
It does, but I know people are like, okay, this takes something from Genevieve in Teeny's games, um,
But they
because
probably
they
don't care.
technically lasted. Yeah, no, I
They
think
can plead their case later.
yeah, I don't hate that Kyle has the technicality of having three, um, because
Okay, I have a question for you
he
about.
had the necklace for three.
Sorry, I also have a question for you about the footholds part.
Hmm.
Because on the other thing, for example, like when holding your weight, they did a proportion of their own weight, right? For the footholds, they don't make it sound like they're doing the footholds proportional to their foot.
Mm,
What do you
yeah,
think about that? How do you
I,
think you would do on a challenge like that?
yeah, I don't know how that would work. I actually thought I could do pretty well in this challenge. This was one, it would get really hard at the end, but it's just like the spider, the spider
Yeah,
climbing. And I'm
yep.
thinking of ways like, man, I would probably keep my arms down so I save my shoulders for when it gets really hard and I gotta be sticking like this by the end of it. I don't know. I think I could do pretty well. I mean, think about it. Your feet are getting beat up for the past, what
Sure.
day is it at this point?
16.
16? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, for the
Mhm.
past 2 weeks, you're barefoot all the time in the sand and I don't know. But the thing is like, okay, I think I could do well, but how well can the person next to me do? Like, I know I want it, but how badly do they want it?
Yeah.
And I think Gabe wanted it a little more this time. Um, and I think it was a good win for him. Let's jump to the uh, get your vote back challenge. What did you think of that?
Um, I kind of liked it. I'll be honest with you. I
Yeah.
thought it was fun. It was unique. They've done card building things tons. Like that's not our first time seeing those kind of cards or even seeing, stack the things. But the fact that it was reverse Jenga was super fun.
Yeah, I
Um,
really like this. I thought the setting was really cool, the cave wall.
mhm.
I think they spent a good amount of time on it, like episode wise. It was a pretty short chunk of time show wise, which I know it took a lot of time away from their strategizing time back on the beach, which we'll get to later, that I think added to the chaos of it. But yeah, I thought this was really cool. I'm surprised people didn't go for blocks earlier, like placing them maybe smack
Yeah.
dab in the middle. I don't know if there was rules to that, but no, I thought this was actually a really cool challenge. I'm so glad only one person walked away with it with without a vote.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Which is, it was always going to be that, right? There was never a chance that there would be more than one person since it was whoever it fell on, right?
Yeah.
So when Genevieve had her really cool move of putting the thing, and it was like, oh my gosh, you could, and Caroline's like, oh, good job. I think it was Caroline that went right before her. Do you think that was a strategically, like that's why Genevieve had to put the one thing in the weird place, was because she was starting to be more strategic with her moves, or was it just a bad placement? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, maybe both. It was Caroline before her. Yeah.
Was it?
I can't
I think
remember if it
so.
was Rachel or Caroline before her. Anyway, I do think it was strategic. So Genevieve had to do that. Um,
Uh-huh.
when it's getting higher, it's yeah. A lot of people are saying Caroline is just positive all the time. Do you think she's over positive, right amount? Are we just seeing, like, are we getting the edit that she's positive all the time? What do you think about that from her?
I think that that is genuinely her personality because her reactions, I don't think you can fake. And so I think that she really is just a genuine cheerleader type person. Um, uh, I think that there's substance behind her because like she's not easily swayed, right? So like when people have tried to tell her, hey, this, she'll be like, okay, but listen. And so she is a deep thinker. I'm not saying that she's just some goofy, oh, everything's great. That's
Mhm.
not it. I think she is genuinely an optimistic person who likes to cheer on people. There's those people out there in the world, right? The Hufflepuffs in the world that just I think that everything's great for everybody and we can still be super competitive.
Yeah, she also looks very difficult to read, like in person, because she always just has her eyes wide, like mm-hmm.
Well, I feel
I
like
would
we
never
know
know. I would never know if she's telling the truth to me or not.
I feel like we know the absolute least about her from anybody. For
I
like
agree.
what's going on with her.
I
You
agree.
know,
That's why I don't love her chances at winning.
I agree.
However, I do think her losing her vote was actually a good thing here. As far as her possibly overplaying this, this is one where I think you can dodge a lot of heat um by losing your vote. I mean, we know historically the person that loses their vote probably isn't going to be targeted anyway. So maybe she dodged a bullet there. I mean, who knows? Votes probably weren't going her way anyway. But also if this had come down to a more um close vote, Caroline can just say, I don't have a vote. I had nothing to do with that,
Sure.
if
Plausible
it ended
deniability.
up not going her way. Um, so I thought this was actually not a terrible episode to lose your vote if you're going to lose one, for Caroline at least.
I agree. At the same time, because she was a Tuku and because that was one down, it feels like this should have been easier for the leftovers to gang up on the Tukus at this point, which I guess we can get into that later on if you want. But I really feel like this was a wasted opportunity for everybody else. Like it, how do you not take out the largest existing alliance still?
Mhm.
Or are they really showing themselves as being, no, we're not for it, still together. I hate Kyle, says Sue. Is how much of that is still true? I just wonder. But
Yeah. All right, we only have 10 minutes left.
okay.
So let's get to the vote. Um, Genevieve. Genevieve, it looked like she's the one that came up with this plan. It looked like she's the one swaying people. I have written down that Genevieve was working Sue pretty much this whole time, or not the whole time, but whenever she talked to her. I see Sue as someone that gets pushed around so easily. She just agrees with the
Mhm.
plan. Not only does she agree, then she goes with that plan. Um, okay, this is probably my biggest question well, I have two big questions. The first one about this is, does this blowback come back to Genevieve? What happens to Genevieve now? Does she get all this credit for taking out Saul, for flipping, for being the one to drive this vote? Is she now seen as a big threat? Is she going home next week? What happens from here for Genevieve?
So, so we were presented with two very interesting parallel stories of revenge, right? Because we're first presented with Sam's I need to get revenge, right, for what they did to Sierra. And then, but he says, so I'm going to cause chaos. But he said it, this was at the beginning. But for now, I'm going to play nice. Totally reminded me of Natalie Anderson from San Juan del Sur, right? And so I thought, okay, he's playing the long game, revenge game. Then we're all of a sudden presented with Genevieve has these feelings of resentment ever since they were back on Lavo trying to get out Rome, which I'm like, wait, she was on board with getting out Rome when they actually got him out, right? Like she was seemed to be completely on board with that. But who knew that she was holding on to these feelings of resentment and that she totally went for it? This becomes her big move. So what we have seen in the new era, right, is that the next target was the last biggest move. And so I feel that she will either absolutely be targeted. Okay, and or you do the Gabler thing, right?
Mhm.
Which is what we've
That's
also
exactly what I
seen
was about to
with
bring up.
with what Genevieve I think did the first time, right? When she targets somebody and then go into hiding, right? Like throw out your person's name, which is honestly what I feel that Sam was doing when the very first time that he said, "Oh yeah, Andy could be our person." I think he was just offering up the name of a person from his tribe that wasn't present that day. I know he's gotten some criticism for doing that, and that why Andy found out that he had been the alternative vote that time from Seoul, but that's a couple episodes ago, if you remember what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
um, this idea of the revenge game, it just makes me feel like okay, something's interesting here because we were presented tonight or that night, with the two revenge stories. How are they going to play out? Is Genevieve really the mastermind of the whole season, who is going to be the Gabler that puts out the hit and then goes back into hiding, or is she going to become the next biggest target? And contrasting that with Sam, it felt like Sam is the one that's hiding more of that revenge, if anything even comes of it, right? But I do feel like who would you take out next? Genevieve definitely appears to me to be that next biggest hit, that next biggest target, right? She made it obvious, right? After the end, it focused on her saying, "I can't believe, holy crap, I can't
Yeah.
believe
Can't
that
believe it
worked."
worked out.
You know,
hmm So, but then it goes again to this thing. Everybody wrote down Saul's name. I know it was Genevieve's plan, but everybody went with it.
everybody went with it.
So I think there's a world where they come back. It gets pinned on Genevieve a little bit, but she says, okay, but you all agreed, you all had the same thoughts, this, and that. I Yeah, Genevieve is very polarizing right now. Um, if
Don't
she
you
gets
see a world though where somebody like Caroline says, "Hey, look at this. Genevieve was able to convince all of us, right? She's this hypnotizer that was able to manipulate. So rather than it being it was a consensus vote, it was like oh wow, that person had control over all of
Yeah,
us."
yeah, she's probably going home
Now,
next. Genevieve's probably going.
I, I mean, she's another one like Caroline. Like I think those two are the two that we know the absolute least about
Yes.
anything. So I don't know. It'll be very interesting, like I said, to see how this whole story of revenge will actually end up playing out.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
she should have hidden that a little bit better.
Yeah, we got to keep it moving.
Okay.
One of the last things is what did you think about Sam shaking things up? And I just want to start with, I think this could have been very easy for Sam. I think he could have what Saul wanted to do, anybody but me right now. Sam could have
Mhm.
heard from Rachel, very good job reading Rachel. and finding out. That was really cool. He was like,
This,
"So it's Saul then, isn't it?" She's like, "Yeah, okay." I
yeah.
think he could have heard that and said, "There is 20 minutes until tribal. I'm just going to put my head down, anybody but Sam, and I'm just going to vote Saul out with everybody else in the tribe because now he threw out Sue and Kyle. What stops from someone like Rachel? I don't know who would turn on him that knew about that. What stops Heaney from wanting to go make a bond with Caroline and Sue and say, "Oh, but did you know that Sam was really targeting you guys? Last vote, last second he was trying to pin on you.
Mhm.
Kyle, he was trying to pin it on you. Kyle's this kind of puppy dog, like he was like, okay, it's time to get him out." I did not like this from Sam. I thought, okay, if they'd had more time, which and this is what it goes back to that get your vote back challenge really played into this is because from the interviews, it sounds like they did not have a lot of time when they got back. I
Correct.
heard that apparently they actually extended the discussion time. Like they pushed tribal council back as far as they could because it
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
such chaos, you know. And I think there's a world where if they had more time, that this group could have gotten together and voted out a Kyle or a Sue this episode. They just ran out of time. That's really what it was. And I was confused how they didn't end up deciding a vote or like deciding who it was going to be. Um, I thought the live tribal could have been avoided. It could have been avoided had they had more time.
Well, but I feel like there was a live tribal vote, and it did seem like the people weren't 100% decided. But then it still came to a consensus vote. And that's what confused the heck out of me is after all of this, after all of the chaos, it still came down to that consensus vote. Now, as for Sam, I actually kind of like what he did because
Really.
if he had done the safe thing, which probably would have been super smart, right? And just go with the consensus vote and just get Soul out. But again, think about the numbers because you have 10 people, but you only have 9 votes. That means 5 was the magic number this time. And if he could have pulled together, right, the Gata 3 and 2 from Lavo, you've got the majority. And here's the thing now it becomes a super majority because I think part of them were like, even Rachel, I feel like was hesitant because she didn't want to break bonds with her new friends because she's become friends now with Carolyn. She's become friends. I think she didn't want to offend them because then what about the retaliation? But it wouldn't have mattered because they could have gone up 5-3, and then you're set. You have your final 5 right there, super easy. So I think Sam being willing to try to go back to those Lavo people that stabbed him in the back, I think it was smart because knowing that one of them was the target and saying, "Hey, but we're here to help you," they could have taken over the control. And so rather than voting out somebody, I think he doesn't have a lot of possibilities for allies left. And so I think
Yeah.
going with the Teeny and the Soul people are are the only ways that he could have had a chance to keep a majority. And now what are they going to do? Because now the Tukus, they have it. It's going to be so hard for I never thought that one of them would win, but I think that final four is making it. Or
Really.
at least close, super
Yeah.
close.
I think the thing was they were running out of time, like we are. So I'm going to stop the recording and then
Okay.
I we will get back on and I'll edit it together. Together.
Okay, sounds great.
Give me 2 seconds.